doesn't. I love that intro video. I like that little clip of Mizzou too. It is March Madness. We'll get back to talking some non-baseball stuff down the road, but this is an all baseball podcast, video stream. Matt Pauley in Jupiter, Kevin Wheeler in St. Louis, Tom Ackerman here in St. Louis, and we're getting ready to talk about a game that is just getting underway, the Cardinals and the Astros. But first things first, Matt, we're sponsored by Victory Men's Health, by the way, Saliga Heating and Cooling.
Game day.
What did I say? Oh, I'm sorry.
Day.
Game Day Men's Health. It's not up on the screen, so
No, normally it is. Yeah. Well, you know what I think because of our current little layout, it's just going to be a weird one, but we'll figure it out.
Game Day Men's Health and Saliga Heating and Cooling, an American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. Now let's turn things over to Matt Pauley in Jupiter, Florida, for the news we've been waiting for. What is the latest on Jordan Walker and the sore left knee that he experienced yesterday?
Yeah, so I'm at Cacti Park of the Palm Beaches right now in West Palm Beach, and about 20 minutes ago, maybe 25 minutes ago, the Cardinals rolled in, and Oliver Marmol welcomed the assembled media into his office to give an update on Walker because they got the imaging back. And guys, it's pretty good news. All it is inflammation. There is nothing structural whatsoever. Everything on the knee structurally is fine. Only inflammation kind of on the upper part of the knee. The plan is they're going to basically shut him down from all baseball activities for 1 week, and then they'll start the ramp-up process again. So Ollie was very happy, and I think rightfully so. It's a bummer because he had that really good game, and then this basically happens right after it. But if Walker still got plenty of time and plenty of spring games to play in before they break camp and head north. So good news today regarding Walker.
So what the heck happened? So I did the game yesterday. I'm watching him. He strikes out his first at bat. Second inning, he makes that, pretty much a routine fly ball catch in right field. But he stepped on a sprinkler head.
Yes,
is that what happened?
That's what happened. So he's going for that fly ball out that he made, and as he's headed that way, there was a sprinkler head that he stepped on, and it kind of just caused him to move his leg a little bit in an odd twisting fashion. So he twisted the knee just a bit, enough to create that inflammation, and that's what caused it.
Kevin, it's just a freak thing, but I don't know, man. I don't look, nothing against, it's a great ballpark. I've been there, great organizations, Nationals and Astros. There it is right there. It's, a sprinkler head. It seems like a hazard for major league fielders. These are multi-million dollar assets we're talking about running around out there.
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe something didn't retract into the ground the way that it normally would, at the end of the watering cycle. That is weird because normally because all big league fields have that, right? They all have irrigation systems and things like that. So they all have it. And all of the minor league fields that are grass fields, which I think they all are, have the same thing. So something may have just not been the way that it should be, or it could just be super duper stupid random luck, right? You got that one little cleat that maybe gets caught in that one little spot, which is almost impossible statistically to happen. And it happened. Who knows?
Well, Vince Coleman got run over by the tarp. Okay?
He should have seen that coming, though.
Yeah, I know. Things happen. By the way, which reminds me, we have a breakfast on opening day that you should go to. Vince and I do that together. It's going to be unbelievable. KMOX.com has all the details. So, Matt, what else is going on down there? So anything else out of that? I mean, we're talking like, as you said, an evaluation a week from now to make sure he's okay, and they don't anticipate that this could linger.
Yeah, they are purposely taking this very slow. If this happened in the regular season, I don't think he'd be out even a week. They'd probably push it a little bit more, but with it being spring training, they say give it a week and then they'll reset at that point. I do think it's a bummer, though, just in the sense that he had that fantastic game, and then it was the next game that he played in where this happened. Sometimes something clicks and you take it moving forward. Sometimes it's just a one good game and it doesn't click for you, but you would have liked for him to be able to build upon that game. So for me, that's the biggest bummer here. I'm not too worried about the week that he's going to be shut down.
Matt, can you expand on that? Because people who are just joining us are going to look back they're going to look at the box score and say, what good game are you talking about? I'm missing that one. No, it was the game where the exit velocity was around 100 miles an hour, maybe three times.
Three times,
Hit
yeah.
the hell out of the ball.
Yeah, so he was 0 for 2 with an RBI off a sac fly. The sac fly left the bat at like 99. The line out left the bat at like 105. And then his final fly out went 380 or something down the left field line. It would have been a home run in 26 Major League ballparks. So he really looked good at the plate. Just one of those days where he had some bad luck. But during spring training, you don't need to be worried about the luck or the good luck or the bad luck. Look at what kind of contact is being made. So that was a really, really good day at the plate for Walker.
Wheels, how does that stack up with some of the numbers that you watched? I mean, who's hitting the ball hard, and where does Walker kind of rank among those players?
Oh, I mean, as far as the frequency of hitting it hard, he's basically as good as anybody on the team in spring training. One of the guys that actually has hit a lot of balls hard has been Koperniak. I think at the time I had looked at it, he had almost as many balls hit at 100 miles an hour as anybody on the team, maybe the most. I think he had 5, which was a lot. And then he had the home run. Was that yesterday or the day before?
Yeah.
Yesterday had the home run yesterday that was also over 100 miles an hour. So yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I think Koperniak's probably near the top of that. Walker definitely is. Well, Contreras is the leader in the clubhouse. I mean, Contreras is just hitting everything hard. He's had I think it was 7 out of 9 plate appearances or balls in play that he hit were 95 plus, and like 5 of those were 100 plus. So there are a bunch of guys doing that, which was the point of looking it up. It wasn't to say that everything's fine or that you shouldn't worry about scoring or anything like that. It's just that you need more information to evaluate players. You need to know all of it, because the stats certainly are going to be, in the end, what matter, right? Runs are going to be what matter, because runs are how you win games. But spring training stats aren't predictive. Things that are more predictive are how hard are you hitting the ball? How often are you hitting the ball hard? Are you chasing? Are you not chasing? Things like that.
Yeah, Michael Ciani almost hit a home run here. He missed it by about 10 feet just a moment ago.
Oh.
Speaking of hitting the ball hard.
There you go.
Yeah.
And by the way, he was on the low end. He had a couple of 100-mile-an-hour balls, but then after that, those are the only ones he had hit hard. So it's good. I would love for this to see him hit. I think we all want him to do more. It's just a matter of needing to see it.
Yeah, he had 3 flyouts yesterday, and then he drove in a run on a bases loaded walk, so that was good. But there were 4 walks in a row, or in that inning. Matt, what about Matt Koperniak? Just kind of in general, making this club. I mean, you saw the home run. You kind of described it to me this morning on the radio as sort of all or nothing. Like, he struck out a couple of times, then he whacked one. He does have a very loud bat. And while you're answering that, I'm also curious, because I don't recall anything special defensively. I think a good player. But what do they say about him with glove?
Yeah, just fine. There's nothing notable from a defensive standpoint. You look offensively, so he had 4 hits in his first 4 games. He was hitting .444 at that point. He went 3 games without a hit, and then was 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts yesterday before he hit the home run. To Kevin's point, he has been hitting the ball hard. I think it's an uphill battle for him to make the team, because he's a left-hander, and they don't need left-handers. They got enough of those guys. Now, you hit enough, you make that decision for them, but he's behind the 8 ball right now just simply because of his handedness, and there's going to be other guys who I think maybe are put ahead of him, but he's going to have something to say about that when all is said and done. I think I said this on the show, but for people, I know not everybody hears every single thing. One of the lines of the spring came from Oliver Marmol when talking about Koperniak. He said, Matt Koperniak is the guy that he'll say hello to you on the first day of camp. He'll say goodbye to you on the final day of the season, and you won't hear a thing else from him the rest of the way. He's just going to put his head down and work. And that's who he is. He's a very quiet guy.
He is. I had him on the Caravan. He's the quietest player I've ever been around. But I'll tell you, by the second day, we were like, whoa, Koperniak. Like, he was coming up with, once he got comfortable, came up with some one-liners. He was kind of funny. So it was good to see. And I think for any player, especially for him, just kind of warming up. Also, an interesting thing about him is he played for Albert Pujols down in the Dominican Republic, which I think is kind of cool. Anything else before we let you go, Matt? Any other notables? Any news items from today?
No, not too much. They got a little bit of a workout in over in Jupiter this morning. Brought this group over for this game today. Got the Walker news, so that's kind of been the day so far.
All right, my man. Have a great time. Thank you very much for the contribution, for the report, and great rest of your day down in Florida.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
See you, buddy.
Bye.
This is the Gashouse Gang from KMOX with Kevin Wheeler. I'm Ackerman. We're sponsored by Game Day Men's Health and Saliga Heating and Cooling. It's great to be with you, Kevin. Let's get after it. And let me ask you this. So if Walker is out for an extended period of time,
yeah,
let's look at that scenario. What does the outfield look like? Who gets the first crack at right field?
Well, I mean, it probably is just a variation of what we've seen, right? I mean, so that would probably open things up either for Burleson to go play some outfield. And again, it depends. Is Victor Scott going to make the team? Or is it Michael Ciani, and how are they going to play? But I would guess that it means your center fielder will be your defense guy, right? Your center fielder will be either Ciani or Victor Scott. Your right fielder is probably Nootbaar, right? Donovan, Gorman, or you could also go, Burleson in right, keep Newton left, Donovan second, Gorman DHs. So they have the guys, right? I mean, they have the people that can do that. It's just a matter of sorting out who they're going to put in center field. And that's kind of the big question. Now if they're healthy and they're trying to get bats, well then, yeah, I mean, Newt's going to play some center, right? I mean, I think he's playing there today, isn't he? So I mean, that's going to happen, but I wouldn't think that would happen much with Walker out. I would think more often if Walker's going to, let's just say Walker misses the first 2 weeks because there's a little setback here and he needs to get back, which just for that example, I would think that would mean Newt slides over to right. And then you'll have, one of the two true center fielders in center, and you'll sacrifice offense for defense in that scenario. That'd be my guess.
Yeah, no, those are good guesses. I mean, I think you're basically either Scott or Ciani on this team. You're not going to have both. Most likely, right? And then
you could, but yeah, it's a stretch. It's redundant,
right? Unless Scott continues to hit like he's hitting or comes close to it, because he has been head and shoulders above Ciani in that department. Of course, there's also the threat when he does get on base of swiping bags. Not that Ciani can't; he can steal bases.
Not like him though.
Not like Vic. I mean, he's something, man. He's something special. I don't know. I'm very curious to see how this thing plays out. And if this does open a door for Victor, maybe he pushes the pedal down even further.
I think that's the best case scenario, right? If Victor Scott can just go out and win it, hit the whole spring and show that he deserves to be the opening day center fielder, that's your ideal. And that also might change the composition of the bench, right? Because that takes away what would be Ciani's big value, which is your late inning defensive guy if Ciani's on the bench, right? But if you have both of those guys, you're missing something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess it looks like, Tom, that Sajaci's going to make the team. I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure that's the case. They're going to need an infielder. Maybe that infielder is Barrero, who's actually swung the bat pretty well too. I would be more comfortable with Barrero being a part-time player, like, playing once or twice a week, than I would be Sajaci playing once or twice a week. I want Sajaci to play because I think he's a real prospect. I think he's a legitimate potential bat. And if he's going to be on the team, he should be playing somehow, like, 3-4 days a week. I can't imagine you'd want less than that. So, looking at how you would construct it, if Victor Scott is the center fielder, and by the way, if you go look, this is early, Tom, but Victor has been one of the better guys on the team in average exit velocity down in Jupiter. Jordan Walker is the best of the regulars, of the guys that are going to make the team. After that, Wilson Contreras, Lars Nootbaar, nothing weird about those guys. We mentioned Koperniak, JJ Weatherholt's in there, by the way, Lucan Baker, and then Victor Scott. So Victor Scott is there with all the big bats, all the big power guys with exit velo so far in the spring. So if Victor Scott's hitting like that, stats or no stats, and his stats are good too, man, that's your center fielder. And then you got to figure out, all right, how do we balance? What's the balance to that on the bench? Is it having a guy like Ciani, who really doesn't have much of a role if Victor Scott's playing center field? Or is it a guy like Michael Hellman, who bats from the right side, who can play a little center and run a little bit and give you an option against left-handers? I think so many of these things are tied together, and I'm wondering if Victor Scott is the guy that may be the linchpin to how this roster looks.
Victor's home run not long ago, it was about a week or so ago, was a no-doubter. I mean, the one that he hit off the roof against Toronto. We know that power is in there. I thought that Sajay's home run was tremendous. I mean, his swing is so compact and quick and strong. I hear what you're saying. I mean, he needs to play every day. So if you're not every day, but he needs to
play a lot. He's got to play a lot.
But to be selfish, and obviously I want to develop him, but could I develop him at the big league level? And then my trust in Sajay over Barrero coming off the bench and getting a big hit is there. I like Sajay in a clutch spot if I can. I could bring him out cold in the 7th or 8th inning as a pinch hitter, and I think he could deliver a big league hit for me. But I hear what you're saying. I can't sit him on the bench all the time. He's going to have to play a lot. And so I am running that scenario through my head.
Yeah, I mean, and he plays second and third base. So
yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see a spot for him in that run a regular role here.
Not the way it is. No, not with Arenado here. I think that he's probably the guy most impacted by the team not being able to trade Arenado because he plays second and third. Yes, he plays short too. And who knows? Maybe later in the year, if Wynn is in a slump or whatever, you could give him a couple days there. But the plan is not that. The plan is for Mason Wynn to play 150 games. That's the plan. You're not 10 games for Sajay at short, and then you got both Gorman and Donovan that are going to need to play second base, and Arenado's going to play 150 at third base. And when you think about DH, well, that's going to be Burleson a lot of the times, depending on the structure. Could be Contreras. Could be Gorman at times. I don't know that those at bats they're there. Now I will say this: bring him up in July, one way or the other. Go play every day for 3 months, and then no matter what, we can get him up here. But and maybe there are times where there are injuries where it makes more sense, and there will be more at bats available. But I think he's the guy that's most impacted by Arenado continuing to be on the team, and it makes more sense to me for a lesser player that is not a prospect, like Hellman, who's 28, soon to be 29, or Barrero, who's 27 or about to be 27. Those guys make more sense as utility guys. And the beauty of both of those guys, Tom, is they both play center field. So those are right-handed bat options in center field if you need one.
Interesting thing that's happening in our comment section right now on YouTube between Thomas and Ken talking about Ray Lankford. And comparing Victor Scott to Lankford, I just, while you were talking, looked up Lankford's numbers when he was young. He hit 3 home runs in limited duty his first year as a Cardinal in 90, and then in 91, where he played a full season, 615 plate appearances, 566 at bats, only 9 home runs. But he started to become a power hitter after that. Same build. It was mentioned as Victor Scott. They are about the same. Scott's 5'10", Lankford 5'11". But I don't see Vic becoming, the all-time leader at Busch Stadium home runs like Ray Lankford was. But certainly he's a guy who I think has some untapped power in him. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think Sajay has some power. I think Mason Wynn has some power. And you and I have talked about this a lot. I think there are some power sources that have been untapped that are going to start to flourish here in the next few years. I want to see Mason get as many ABs as possible, and that's why I advocate for him leading off in spring training. Now, he gets as many ABs as he possibly can, and he needs them. I'm not sure that that'll be the case in the majors if he's not showing any sort of progress in that area.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to watch the development of these guys. And I think the Lankford comp is interesting, but Lankford was a guy that for a lot more pop in the minor leagues than Victor Scott has. Victor Scott is slugging under 400 in the minor leagues, like 380 as a minor leaguer. And in the minors, Lankford was 450. So even if they weren't all home runs, he was hitting a lot of doubles and triples, and he was hitting with authority. I'm not sure that the comp is exact, but there's similarities. I think Vic's faster. Like, don't get me wrong, Lankford could run, but I don't think many guys, other than maybe Vince Coleman, ran the way that Victor Scott runs. So They're physically similar. I mean, height, weight, they kind of look similar in that way. A little bit different guys, but watching all of this go, Tom, I think that in your perfect world, you see as many of these guys that you count as prospects, right? And Victor Scott is a prospect. Many of the prospects as possible seize roles and run. Make the decision for you. Last year, Victor Scott didn't make the decision for them because it was an injury that led to them saying we need a center fielder. And after that, it was just a struggle. But if he goes in this spring the way he's going, how do you say no? If he keeps on hitting the ball hard, how do you say no? A guy with that speed who's hitting the ball hard? Dang, man, sign me up for all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely fun to watch. And then, continuing on this outfield conversation, Newt Barr had a big hit yesterday.
Yeah.
And we all know that Newt Barr has some freakish athletic ability. He can hit the ball a long way. He needs to stay healthy. But he had a big hit yesterday, a 2-run single when the Cardinals really needed it to expand their lead. And then they went on to win that game on a Yordalan Pena home run in the 9th, a 20-year-old kid who the Cardinals
they just signed him
when they were 17. I saw that somebody comment on Twitter. They said, well, I can't wait to see him go win a World Series with somebody else.
Oh, come on. Is it already that bad? I mean, I got to tell you, man, and I'll speak to everybody that's watching. If you all think the way this has been is bad, you should try paying attention to some other teams. try following try following the A's or the Rockies or any of these. I mean, look, how many winning seasons have the Royals had in the last 30 years, Tom? 5? Mm. Try being those fans and then tell me how tortured you are. It's not easy. I had a guy the other day telling me, Tom, this looks like a 100-loss team. Brother, that tells me you've never followed a 100-loss team. This isn't what a 100-loss team looks like. This is a 100-loss team if 5 starting players get hurt and miss months at a time. Then it's a 100-loss team. You don't understand. I mean, hey, by the way, that made me look it up, Tom. Can you name the last time the Cardinals lost 100 games?
Oh, no. They lost 91 back in 23. Yep. And before that, their losing season was 07.
Yep.
I remember covering that year and how disappointing that was. And Walt Jocketty got fired. Before that, dude, it's got to be forever ago.
The last time the Cardinals lost 100 games, I think, was 1908. That's crazy.
Year the Cubs won the World Series. Boy, the Cardinals fans were upset. They were all over the message boards that year.
Yeah.
No, that's a long time. I'll tell you one thing the Royals have that the Cardinals don't have is a bona fide super.
Oh my God. Yeah. He's Witt's one of the 3 or 4 best players in the game. I mean, I would put him in the conversation for the best because of the combination of all skills and the position. That's a shortstop with 40 homer power and 40 stolen base speed and hitting 320, right? I mean, that's a shortstop. That's not a DH. That's not a right fielder. That's a shortstop, man. And by the way, go look at how his defense rates. That's a top defensive shortstop. That's a top-end dude. Give me that all day. I'll take that over a DH or a right fielder. If you said, now, when you're trading for Shohei Ohtani, you're getting the starter and the bat, right? But let's say he's done pitching. I wouldn't trade Bobby Witt Jr. for Ohtani as a one-way player, as a hitter. There's not a hitter in the game I would trade for Bobby Witt Jr. And there isn't a pitcher I would trade for him either.
You're watching and listening to the Gashouse Gang from KMOX. We're sponsored by Game Day Men's Health and Saliga Heating and Cooling with Kevin Wheeler. I'm Tom Ackerman talking about marquee players like Bobby Witt Jr. I look over your left shoulder there, and I see that Paul Goldschmidt jersey hanging on our KMOX Sports Office door. I will have to replace that at some point, but I need to identify a future MVP in this organization. At the moment, I'm not sure that I have one. Maybe Weatherhold could play his way into that sort of conversation. But other than that, I mean, being honest with you, Arenado's MVP days are behind him. I don't have it at the moment. Let's identify marquee players. MVP's a little much.
So are we talking about like all-stars?
Yeah, let's start with that. Let's start with some all-stars. I'd say probably you're going to start with Wilson Contreras, aren't you?
Yeah, that's your current best player. That's your best player. He's clearly, it's a tougher field at first base, but he's clearly an all-star caliber hitter. I mean, that's been true for a long time. That's not new, and it'll be interesting to see what his numbers look like when he gets to play more because he's not catching. But yeah, that's your star. That's your best player.
And then behind that, how about some up-and-comers? Is there anybody you would identify anywhere in the organization, I don't care where they are, that you think could develop into a regular all-star?
Well, I mean, obviously, Wynn is that, right? He's on that edge right now. And honest to God, all it takes is a little bit better swing decision, a little bit better idea of what to lay off of, and he's probably a regular all-star because he's going to bring you the defense. He brings speed, and we both agree. I think he's got more power to access, but he can't access it until he stops swinging at pitches that are off the plate. But he's that guy that's close. We would love for Victor Scott to be that, but we don't have anywhere near enough evidence to even really seriously include him in this kind of conversation. You hope that Walker can be that, but we don't have the evidence to say that that's anything realistic at the moment. Same thing for Gorman. I don't know that I'd put Newt in that category. I think Newt is maybe just a hair below that, assuming health, right? And that's the hard part. We haven't been able to assume health. So yeah, it's pretty slim. Now, Arenado can still be that, right? I mean, he has a good first half and he plays great defense. He can still be an all-star. But that's not what we're talking about, right? Who are the guys that are like long-term looking like they can be regular all-stars? And it's hard to find many. Now, my guy is Weatherholt. We all seem to agree on that. I think once you figure out what his position is, which is probably second base, but maybe third, that bat plays, he's going to hit. I don't see a case where he's not at least a major league average hitter, and he's probably better than that. I think he's got your best chance in the organization to be a regular all-star. Now, on the pitching side, maybe it's Quinn Matthews. It's probably, Sonny is that now, but again, not long-term, right? He's only got 2 years left and he's in his mid-30s. 2 years left on a contract, but Sonny's at that level. But then long-term, though, yeah, probably Matthews, and then the guy they're going to pick number 5 in the draft this year. It's probably going to be something like that. And at this point, I don't know how much deeper you can go. I don't think they have a lot of other prospects, Tom, that profile that way other than Weatherholt and Matthews. And, Tink has all-star ability, but we just haven't seen him pitch enough to know what he's going to be, or if he's going to even be a starter instead of a reliever. We have no idea.
No, it's a really good point. I think that Helsley is certainly somebody.
And again, he's now like Sonny, right? Like they're all-star candidates right now for sure.
Yeah. Let's speaking of Helsley, let's line up this bullpen if you would.
Yeah.
Give me some locks for the bullpen. So we know Helsley is the closer. We know that Romero is going to be part of this bullpen. I think it's safe to say that Matthew Liberatore has earned a pretty good spot on the back end of the bullpen. Yeah. King is going to be a lefty. Yeah. I really like Ryan Fernandez. I think that he's got some closer ability. I love Riley O'Brien. We need to see more of him. Derek Gould had an interesting note in his story this morning in the Post-Dispatch that, according to his sources, the Cardinals are still looking around for free agents in the bullpen. Do you think, did that surprise you at all? I know we talked about it earlier in spring training. Where do you think they are there, and why do you think they're doing that?
It does surprise me, and it makes no sense. I mean, I fully believe Derek's reporting. Derek's nails. He's money. I don't what are we doing? If we're looking at an old available reliever right now, what are we doing? I thought this was about a reset. I thought this was about finding out about players.
It's a transition.
But like, this is my point, and we can expand this later on in the show if we want to. But are we playing for now, or are we playing for the big picture? Because we've been told all off season that we're playing for the big picture. That yes, we still want to be good now, but the priority is the long term. That's what the way this was framed all winter long. So why are we scrounging for old relievers? Why are we talking about David Robertson or Craig Kimbrell or guys like that when you've got all of these younger guys to sort through? So you got those 5 that you mentioned, Tom. Those are your 5. That's your core, right? Those are your guys when you're leading games from the 7th inning on, I would think, right? I mean, Liberatore looked great in the pen last year, and he's having a good spring. Romero has great stuff. Fernandez, I agree with you. I think he's got a chance to be really good. Helsley's already a stud, and King is a useful, solid veteran left-hander, and you know what you're going to get from him. Riley O'Brien, to me, Tom, if he's healthy, he has to make this team.
He does.
He has to make this team. The guy throws 98, 99 miles an hour with a wipeout slider. You have to give that guy the opportunity. And I think that they want that. They love Riley O'Brien. Everything I heard from the team about him last year was, God, we really want him to get back so we can get a look at him because we really like this guy.
He looked amazing.
Yeah, and he's a guy that if he's healthy on opening day, he's got to be with this major league team because he has things that you don't have, and he's still, he's 30, man. It's not like Riley O'Brien's 25. There's no future. This is now. Is he a guy that you got to find out now what he can do? And then what are we going to do about Gordon Graceffo? Are we going to have 5 guys starting at Memphis that are not going to be in the rotation because there's not enough room? I mean, you're going to have Matthews, Hentz, Graceffo, probably McGreevy, and then Tekoa Roby, or are they going to move Roby to the bench? See, there's another one. Graceffo and Roby, I got to see them this year. And it's most likely in bullpen roles the way things are shaken out with the starting pitching depth. I got to see those guys. I got to find out, is Leahy a long-term guy? Honest to God, man, I want to see if Rodri Munoz moving from the rotation to the bullpen can just be all gas, no brakes, and throw balls by people, and maybe that command doesn't matter. I got to see Chris Roycroft. I really like what you got there. You got a 6'8" righty throwing 97 miles an hour with a wipeout breaking pitch. I mean, why? And then you got Nick Anderson in camp, who I think stunk yesterday, if I remember correctly. Beat up a little bit.
He gave up all 4 runs yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, like a healthy Nick Anderson throwing the ball well is an intriguing player too, but that's your veteran guy. And maybe they want to cover in case he blows up or something. But like, you got 3 bullpen spots and you got all these people that you need to get looks at in the major leagues this year. Why are we going to clog that up with somebody who's still sitting out there on March 5th?
I don't know, unless I'm just trying to think from the left side. Are they good? They are. Romero,
you got 3 guys.
King.
Yeah.
Romero, Liberatore, King, they're good. So they're obviously looking for a righty. If they are, I don't
Again,
know.
The only way it makes sense is if you're trying to win right now. And if you're trying to win right now, then what in the hell were you doing all winter?
Trying to trade Arenado.
Right, but like you could have still added a reliever while you're trying to do that. And if you're trying to win, like if you're like, to me, a veteran reliever now is like, okay, we're trying to get as many wins as we can this year.
Yeah.
I mean, are you really going to go and say, we're going to try to sign David Robertson with the hope that we're going to trade him for a single A player in 3.5 months? I mean, again, David Robertson's good.
Yeah.
He'd be a good piece in the pen if they sign him. It's not going to make me angry, but I don't understand how this fits. I don't understand how this strategy fits with what you've said you're going to do. Again, unless you've just seen enough of Anderson and you're like, yeah, Nick Anderson's not going to make this team. So maybe then you pivot and say, all right, let's go get David Robertson or whatever. But if you're David Robertson, do you want to play for a top contender, or do you want to go with a team that still can't make up its mind?
I wouldn't do that. Yeah, I would stash a couple more Nick Andersons, and see what you could come up with. Maybe you stick a couple of guys at Memphis, and then guys going to get hurt. The guys are going to get overused. If the Cardinals are planning on, I heard Mo, on my show the other day, he said, we got to figure out who's 6, 7, 8, 9. So they're pretty much banking on their starters going 5.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So that tells me there that they're looking to shorten the starters and go heavy on the bullpen. But you only have so many spots, so you have to put somebody in Memphis on reserve, and then you call them up when you need them. I'd go that route. I'm not going for the David Robertson. There's no need. I already have my back end of the bullpen set for the most part with these young guns. Liberatore, Fernandez.
Yeah.
Not so young O'Brien is definitely one of my 7th and 8th inning guys.
or at least 6th inning guys, right?
Sure.
I mean, like, and that's the point, that a lot of these guys still have options, so you can still see like 5 or 6 of them. Like, what? But again, where are you going to get long looks at Graceffo this year or Tekoa Roby? It's going to have to be in the bullpen. And everybody down in Jupiter is talking about how Roby's lighting it up. He's throwing 97. He's striking people out. He's healthy. And maybe the move to the bullpen is the way that he's able to stay healthy and maximize his potential. And Graceffo's velocity ticks up when he's in the bullpen. And when you already have McGreevy, Hentz, and Matthews, who are all viewed as better prospects than both Graceffo and Roby, and they're all at AAA with you. They're all 5 at AAA. They're not all going to start for the start games for the Cardinals. They're just not. You're not going to lose the whole rotation. So you've got to get looks at as many of those guys as you can. And I think they'll be really careful with Tink Hentz. But it doesn't mean you won't call him up for a spot start here and there if you need someone. You know, I mean, like, I'm sure they're going to be careful. He's not going to throw 150 innings. I think he's probably going to throw 120. He's never thrown 100 yet, so it's certainly not going to be a lot more than that. So they'll be careful with him, but he's still a guy that if you got an injury and you're like, yep, we need a spot start. All right, let's call up the guy that throws 97.
Game Day Men's Health, Saliga Heating and Cooling, the sponsors of the Gashouse Gang from KMOX with Kevin Wheeler. I'm Tom Ackerman for a few more minutes. Just to recap the big news of the day, Jordan Walker is dealing with inflammation in his left knee, so nothing structural there. The Cardinals, following an abundance of precaution here, are going to keep him out for about a week and then reevaluate. So by the time I get down there next week, I'll have a little more info on Jordan as we start to see him moving around a little bit more. In the meantime, it'll be interesting to see how they shift things around in that outfield, Kevin. And it does bear the question. I'll just kind of leave you with this in our last couple of minutes. If the Cardinals are going to go get this division, how many wins do they need? And can they do that? I mean, if they're going to go win, do you see a team right now that can go do that?
If I had to peg the division winner now, I'd probably shoot upper 80s, 88 wins, 89, maybe 90. So the Cardinals won 83 last year. Is 5 more wins than that crazy?
It's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not a lock. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's just not crazy. It's not something that you'd look at and say, there's no way you're getting to that. I mean, you might get to that for sure. I mean, and who knows, in June, you might have Weatherholt playing second base. You might have Matthews in the rotation because he's killing it at Memphis and a spot opens. Like, we just don't know what the roster is going to look like later in the year. I also don't think it's crazy to say that you won 83 last year and you're going to win 75 this year. That could happen too.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, I look at this team and I'm saying that this team actually could be a little bit better than last year. I was on with you last year and Dave Glover asked me, do you see a team that can go to the World Series? And I said, I do not.
I don't see that. No, not as it is now.
No, this is last year.
No. And I would agree now too.
Did not see it. And I don't see it this time either. But unless Victor Scott is special and he asserts himself, right? Unless Weatherholt breaks through and he's just so good that you have to bring him in. And the same thing for Matthews, because those are some high-end talents that can change the construction of the roster, right? Like, that's how it could be, but seeing it now, that's not likely. And I wouldn't put them in the category of the National League teams that could win the World Series now. No, you're going to have those unexpected contributions. I mean, people sometimes tease me for being Mr. Positive and Mr. Optimistic, but really, if you looked back at my picks of this team, I thought they'd be good, but I did not think that they'd be a contender, nor do I feel that now. But I could be surprised by some performances. And, let me ask you this too. Jackson Churio, this time last year, was trying to make the squad for opening day.
Yeah.
For the Brewers, made his major league debut, as a matter of fact, on opening day and became a star. Where was he at this time last year in terms of thought to be a breakthrough player? And who do you identify on the Cardinals who might be in that category?
Well, I mean, Chorio last year was, I think, ranked in the top 2 or 3 in prospects in baseball, like overall. So he was viewed as one of those elite young talents. It just wasn't known. And then once they gave him the extension last winter, Tom, winter of 2023 into the 24 season, there was a strong belief that they would give him every chance to make the team because now you don't have service time issues or anything like that. So he's probably profile-wise, prospect level-wise, what Jordan Walker has been. Right? That's where he was at this time last year. Because Walker was that. He was a top 5 prospect. He just got off to a slow start. And by the way, so did Chourio. The difference is that Milwaukee stuck with him. Chorio's his OPS was under 600 at the end of May, going into June. But he was still there and he's still playing, and they stuck it out. And then after that, he basically played like an all-star for 4 months. And that's why I was a little worried about this Walker injury, Tom, because the one thing that they got to do is just they got to let him play through the ups and downs and see how you adjust at the big league level. And the Brewers did that with Chourio, and it paid off. And I think Walker has that level of upside. Weatherholt does. I don't think Weatherholt has the path to playing time that Chourio had last year. So that's the big difference there. But those guys are at that kind of level as far as where you rank as a prospect. But Chourio's a little different in that he's the true 5-tool, run, defend, power, speed, the whole deal. The Cardinals don't have that guy.
My friend, have a great rest of your day. It is a pleasure, as always, to talk some ball. It goes by fast, man. We've been talking for 41 minutes. Kevin Wheeler, Tom Ackerman, the Gashouse Gang, sponsored by Game Day Men's Health, Saliga Heating and Cooling. Thanks to Wilson, our fantastic producer. And we will catch up with you, and Matt Pauley for jumping in from West Palm Beach. We will talk to you very soon on the Gashouse Gang.